Hey, what's up? It's Phoenix and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm very excited because today I'm going to talk about Seneca as part of my Philosopher series, which I welcome you back to. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Seneca is a Stoic philosopher. You may remember that I have talked about Stoic philosophy as part of my Philosopher series, which would include philosophers such as Marcus Aurelius, so I encourage you to check those episodes out. And I would like to encourage you to check out a book by Seneca, which I read in this volume, and which was a book that included the book on the shortness of life, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. So what can I say about Seneca? Seneca was a Stoic philosopher back in ancient times, which means that his philosophy often focused on a Stoic outlook of life, which often included a literal Stoic perspective, which would imply a perspective that focuses on tranquility of mind, that focuses on a sense of morality and duty, and that focuses on logic. Specifically logic related to understanding of the world and of society and the world in which we live in. And I would say that Seneca is a very interesting philosopher because of the themes that he taps into. So in the book on the shortness of life, you can imagine he's thinking about life and how brief it is, but he likes to juxtapose that with the idea that life also is long and lasts a long time. And so what I understand by Seneca talking about philosophy and life in this way is that life does end at some point, but in this present moment, which is very important to us, we also have our lives ahead of us. And this seems paradoxical, but is nonetheless the way in which it is very possible to think about life, and very possible with thinking about how we have a lot of time and yet we have no time at all, and how it is very contradictory that these experiences exist in our mind, but how fascinating that that is nonetheless. So the thing that I get out of Seneca is definitely that we do have time, that we need to take these moments that we have to be able to live the best life that we can live, whether moral or creative or otherwise. And it is true that life is short and that it seems short, but really a lot of that is just being present in the moment and being mindful of what we are experiencing in our present time. And thinking about all of our experiences in the past and how that has led us to where we are today. The important element that Seneca expresses about this would definitely be that we do have time to accomplish things then. There is a way in which there are many things that we can accomplish in life, because assuming that we don't die today, we will have time to be able to achieve things. And this is, again, one of the paradoxes of life, but it's why we need to be in tune to the idea of life being so short, because it does pass so fast. And we want to be able to be present and mindful in these moments and live the life that we want to, and be able to achieve the things that we want to and work towards goals, whether that's for posterity or just goals for some higher reason and meaning in life. And so Seneca is an interesting philosopher because he's often trying to think about these elements of life, of thinking about how life can be very fulfilling if we are able to do the things that we find meaning with and the things that make the world better in a variety of ways. It seems to me that what is interesting about Seneca and his philosophy is his point that we hate the present and we anticipate the future. And so by this, it's very interesting to think about how this is a great description of how humans operate in their mindset, that we forget that the future hasn't come yet and that we may as well not worry about it. And this is a very Stoic idea, which came from philosophers of the Stoic philosophy, with thinking about how we don't want to occupy our time by fretting about the future. This is a way of being calm and thinking about what we have access to now and being present in the moment. And honestly, it's a very engaging idea in my mind, because I do think it's easy to anticipate negatively the future and think that bad things are going to happen, but the reality is that the future hasn't come yet. So we are just wasting our time and stressing ourselves out by focusing too much on the future. And part of this idea is that we also hate the present because we want something more. We always want something better or something more intriguing and visceral in our lives. And in this true Stoic fashion, Seneca is critiquing this idea and this common way of looking at life. We do want to be present in the moment and appreciate the present for what it brings and not worry so much about the future, because there are a lot of things that will definitely happen on their own terms without us worrying about them. And I always thought that there was wisdom in the Stoic idea, because there is a lot of strength to the idea that we can continue to move forward in life and not fear things that haven't happened, things that haven't happened yet, and things that may not happen at all. The reason why this is such an incredibly Stoic idea is because the Stoics were often preoccupied with living the best life that you can and not being worried about things that are out of your control. In true Stoic fashion, Seneca is thinking about how the future is out of our control, how we don't know what's going to happen, and I think that that's a very powerful idea and super important to keep in mind. Now, one thing that I appreciate about Seneca and his philosophy is when he talks about how there is wisdom in ancient times, and there is wisdom in history. And so, me, Phoenix, living in the 21st century, I have definitely thought how I want to focus on the wisdom of the ages. And this is why I like studying history and historical documents, because I'm able to think and follow a line and a through way through the history of thought and the history of human beings. And I've been able to cull some wisdom through time from these sources. And I think that that's a very intelligent idea, to think that we can think about the past through the lens of history and think about the ways in which we can improve on what they discovered for us and what we would like to improve on in our own lives. And I think there's definitely a lot of power in that, because the more that we study the ages, the more that we study history and where people have been and where they've come from, the more that we're able to analyze our own lives and to be able to have wisdom about our lives. And because we're learning from the best and we're learning through time. And that's a very powerful idea. It's why I study historical documents, because I'm always curious to see how we progress as a species and as individuals and as society, and the ways in which I often think about how I do want to progress and how I do want to be better. And I think that it's a very wise idea in and of itself to think about the history of the ages and about how we can glean wisdom from that. Now, it is very important to keep in mind that Seneca was aware of human suffering, which is why he presents his program as a way of mitigating some of the stresses of life by realizing our own wisdom within, by realizing our own strength and the things that we can accomplish in life through our determination, and the way that we can become better people through wisdom and through our own introspection and reflections. And I think that this is very valuable with thinking about the ways that we can improve our lives. But Seneca was aware that there are also bad things that happen, and it happens to people. And this is important because we do struggle a lot in life, and the reality is that we all struggle. No one is completely insulated from human suffering. There's no way that you can be, unless you programmed yourself to be part of a computer, literally uploading yourself into the cloud, so to speak. And so it's very important to keep this in mind. We do suffer and we do experience pain, and this is just a part of getting through life. Suffering is a part of life. But this is also Stoic in thinking about how we can constantly make improvements on our lives, and we can do things that improve our lives and the lives of other people, and that we can make our lives better, and that we can keep calm amidst adversity and struggle, and that we can keep our emotions in check and intact and neutral, and not worry about the things that are out of our control, which again is one of the most important points in Stoicism. To remember that you should not focus too much on the things that you can't control, because oftentimes those things don't happen, and oftentimes we make things in our mind worse than they really are. Now, I did like this book. I thought it was a little bit short for my taste, but I still thought that On the Shortness of Life is definitely a cornerstone work of ancient literature. especially ancient philosophy. And I think that the Stoics bring a lot of value to the world of philosophy and the way in which we can think about life. And I find that to be very beautiful. And I think that I feel like reading texts like this with thinking about the wisdom of the ages and about the ways in which people have processed life and brought forth their understanding and explained that in books and in philosophy and in their lives is very fascinating. And that's why I like this book, even though it was a little bit short. I think that On the Shortness of Life is a very good theme to meditate upon, because we don't know how long we are going to be here, and we want to find the value as much as we can, and we want to understand our lives and our minds and ourselves and the people around us, and we want to improve those things. And I think that Seneca and Stoic philosophers in general have a good program for establishing that. While I wouldn't say that Stoicism is, of course, is the only school of thought that we should think through, again, to be resonant with my idea of a multiplicity of perspectives, I do think that there is definitely a beauty in thinking about life and processing life and reflecting on our lives and what we would like to accomplish. And I think there's definitely a lot of wisdom in thinking about these things. I think that there is a way in which we can understand the complexity of life while also living a simple life, keeping things simple, staying true to our values, focusing on what we care about, being with our loved ones, and again, realizing how short life is, and that A, we can get a lot done because there is time, but B, how we also have to accept that a lot of the times things are going to be complicated in life and that we are going to struggle and that there is going to be pain. But we nonetheless work through it and continue to do our best, and I think that there's a lot of power in that. And so I like Stoicism as a philosophical school and as a way of looking at life, because I think that I've definitely applied some of these principles to my own life, and that is because I think that it simplifies things. It helps me personally to manage my emotions and think about what I am feeling, and for me to be introspective and to process what's been going on in my life. And I think that there's a lot of beauty and power in that, and so it definitely gives me a lot of hope. I'm Phoenix, and I hope that you enjoyed this talk on Seneca and the shortness of life. I hope that you will check out the book and that you will check out Seneca's writing in general. He wrote a lot of different things, and yeah, I encourage you to check it out. Thank you for being a part of my Philosopher series, and I encourage you to check out previous videos in my series. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Phoenix, and I really appreciate you stopping by. There will be much more content to come, and I will see you around.